The first map will be Lair, followed that is Chalet, if required, Bank the Decider. Early thoughts on this one, Gus?
Yeah, having a look at in terms of like preferences over the last couple of months for both of these two teams. Up first, the selection of Help Us LFO is actually quite intriguing, given that there's not much history on this specific roster. If you tap into PSG, I'm sure there's some playtime on there. But on the flip side, actually, DPLUS, strong record but low preference, so they don't typically want to go to this map all too often, but they've had some strong wins here and a 5-1 record overall. So it'll be very, very interesting to see how they're able to translate that into the server today. Chalet, the selection of DPLUS up next, very strong preference map for them. Not a ton of playtime, and in fact, they haven't touched it recently. Their last play was against Weibo 2 months ago. They lost a couple of days or a week prior to that at 6 Invitational. They actually did take down Shopify Rebellion 7-1. So that one's a little bit more up in the air for me, but should still be very strong for DPLUS. And then if required, Bank the Decider. Number one preference for DPLUS. Again, we put a caveat on the formula for preferences because sometimes it's a little wonky. Teams frequently ban it against them. And so Help Us LFO have left it through, who again have had it banned against them once. Very limited in terms of the data pool for this team in this new rendition. So I think it sets us up for a pretty exciting series. Large maps, particularly Lair and Bank. And so that prep work and the depth of that may be brought into the spotlight for this matchup.
It does also mean this will be the third series straight for DPLUS Care where Lair is the opening map, but this time it's been picked by their opponent, and I guess that's kind of where it does kind of strike me as a confusing selection by Help Us LFO. Maybe they're looking at it in a short-sightedness approach where CAG just completely demolished them 7-1, and as we spoke to PJ, you know, he's kind of talking about the fact that CAG were able to put the time in and see what DPLUS like to do on Lair and used their strategies against them. For Help Us LFO having 2 weeks off, and they I'm assuming, hoping, put the work in to see how DPLUS Care like to play on these sort of maps. Well, maybe Lair is something they'll feel comfortable to try and take them to again, but DPLUS did win this 7-2 back on the opening play day. We go to it regardless. For DPLUS Care, it's familiar territory. It's Lair once again to kickstart a series. In both of those maps, it was a 7-2 to 7-1 result. So like demolition job one way or the other for DPLUS Care. Big game, big elimination match. It's the last remaining Korean rostered team versus the last remaining Korea organization.
Yeah, let's jump in. DPLUS Kia will start on the comfort of defense, and they'll be looking to establish an early advantage in this one. Yeah, the question will be, have Help Us LFO done their homework? You would only be picking this map if you have picked apart that VOD, surely. They have scraped through that replay file and found absolutely every key piece of information that they need to feel confident. And so then for DPLUS Kia themselves to have let it through the veto, especially given how the CAG matchup did play out, could probably make a fair assumption that they've looked to adjust a couple of things in the background as well. As we jump into the ban phase, or the conclusion of it, at least, Monty Grimm banned it Azami.
I mean, early thoughts from me is DPLUS probably the team that should be winning this series, but that's not to take away anything from Help Us LFO. What we've seen, I think, in terms of peak gameplay from Help Us LFO, you probably maybe back in the Fabian era, is they do have the capabilities, they do have the quality. It's just all about, can they get it to click on the right day, in the right moments, win the big plays, make the best plays and the smart plays. And at times they can pick one or two of those categories, but then just fall apart in a lot of the other ones. They can make a sick mechanical play and then just do something very silly, or they can make the right strategical play but don't hit the right shots. And that's the beauty of Siege, is that there are so many different elements and so many different layers that go into the game, where the best teams can usually pretty much cover all elements, and the worst teams will usually do none of them, and then it's just all about figuring out in the middle. For DPLUS Kia, I think, again, at their best, they can cover a lot of those categories and should be more consistent in that against Help Us LFO. They get to start on the defense as well, which I think is going to set them up nicely. We haven't really seen probably at least when it comes to Lair, DPLUS well, they got the 5 attacking rounds in the opening, but then we go back to the match against CAG, and they just could not break through CAG's defensive wall. There was a 5-1 half, and I think I'm envisioning DPLUS will do something similar here in this half. I think this will be rather defender-sided. I don't know if Help Us LFO have the attacking quality to break down a lot of these defensive rounds.
Yeah, man. I definitely share that concern. But as I highlighted before, actually, they're, again, limited data, but their attacking win rate so far in Kickoff, it's number 2. So definitely not as bad as years gone by, where this roster sometimes teetered at like 40%-ish at times, and it was certainly a big Achilles heel for them. Maybe that's something that they've been able to chip away at, and we'll see that translate into this particular game. Write it down below on the Deimos, 3 Death Monk targets available, and in the meantime, Ops and Demez control for the rest of the attack, but it's momentary. Muzi, long angle, clean headshot. First pick goes the way of DPLUS Kia. And no response from Help Us LFO. It's also the Kali off the board, so some of these longer lines of sight difficult to contest, and any ability to clear the util with Lances now also has been taken off the board. It's a big stack lobby at the moment from the attack.
Now losing the Kali at this point, down a player. You haven't got the Mez control that you would like. Only just now Demic can maybe get in there. Take that space. Next kill, pretty much critical right now if you Help Us LFO. They've got to find the next pick to open up this side a little bit. You still got 2 Nitro Cells, 2 Gas Babes. You got the Clash to deal with. Everything is set up for DPLUS here in this round. Now it's all about the execution. They're in the driver's seat. They've got best position. And Help Us LFO need to try and get quite fortunate. Can they get a clean headshot as they enter? Try and avoid this clash as much as possible. I love this reposition from this. He goes over towards Mask. Now, they can try and flush him out, push him back. That's the best thing. They want to go for that Mask plant later in the round. Gas bait thrown out. Only 30 seconds. Help Us LFO have to start getting into this room, start getting into this site.
Oh, they go for default. The Nitro is going to pretty easily deny. Oh, that's a bit aggressive.
Love it.
Double kill,
Love
though.
it.
Very nice conversion, and this should be pretty straightforward from here. May well be a flawless open up for DPLUS Kia. A cheap opening kill, and it compounded from there. Big stack from the attack was pretty easily dealt with.
Yeah, I mean, you could see the stall out. Once that DPLUS got that opening kill, it's a lot more difficult for Help Us LFO to play that flood game. So, Mask and R6 comes down to a few factors. Firstly, can you get Mask opened up, get Mez control, Ops control, is typically what you'll see the most of in terms of how teams will attack into it. And from there, it's like, can you get a nice headshot through a doorway angle peek? And then it's like, okay, well, now we're 5-4 on the attack, and then we can start to flood. We know they're going to throw a lot of utility towards Mask. And it's almost like kind of wait it out and go for that last second hit. But when you lose that opening death, it just becomes so much more difficult. And the Kali as well, which can hold some longer angles. I would like to see attacking teams experiment a little bit more when it comes to that site. It does seem like it's really settled into that meta and that same kind of attacking hit time and time again. And a good example is probably Bank as a comparison in terms of basement, where it's just that server hit. And we see that the best teams will offer different points where they might go vault. They'll go put pressure garage. They'll go and put main stairs pressure. So it's not just a 5-stack in through server for a CC plant. And I think this top floor and lair has turned into a real strong defensive site. The good news for Help Us LFO is that's locked away for the next 2 rounds, and so they've got an opportunity over towards basement and then later the tertiary. These are the rounds on the attack. You've got to find results. Don't worry about top floor that much.
Yeah, top floor is not critical, is probably the easiest way to describe it, but again, it's more so I think the way in which they attacked it and then the struggles that they face, it's not going to be as simple as relying on Help Us LFO to make mistakes. I'm sure that would have been a massive talking point for them, especially after the COG match. Yes, the counterplay was good from COG, but the volume of mistakes that DPLUS Kia quite clearly made in that series was pretty noticeable, and I'm sure that they'll be looking to correct that here. The attacking win rates for comparison as well over the last couple of weeks globally. Second floor, 43%. Basement is 45.6. So slightly edging out, but still overall quite a defender-sided map. It's number 4 for defense of the 9-map pool. Do you know what the most defender-sided is?
In this region or globally?
No, this is global since the 1st of April.
I mean, is it? I feel like Fortress might be the easy answer. Otherwise, I'm thinking Nighthaven Labs. What's no? I don't know. Actually, I'm pretty sure.
Neither.
Is it Consulate?
Yeah, it's Consulate at 63%, and then Cafe at 60.
Midi with the opening kill at the 1 minute mark remaining. It's been a slow burn for Help Us LFO, and as they've finally got some pressure horizontally here towards basement, they've lost Demic, and now again it's similar to that opening round. That's a good pick though from Yun Sang. That's what I'm talking about. Finding these headshot angles through the doorways. Soldier got one onto Musi and leaves us now 3v3 to the close of this second round. Very winnable for both teams. And even more so now with Nias finding that next pick, and the clash still alive as well for DPLUS Kia. Throw in the Nitrocell for Levy, and it's going to be very difficult for Ryder and Soldier.
20 seconds, still a bit of util to play around, and Soldier does net 1, but time is lacking. With the clash shield up, Levy should be able to play off that. Position known. Bit of util to isolate. They could maybe make this work if Ryder can cover.
It just kind of leaves Falls by himself, but he can just play behind the shield anyway. Ryder trying to get involved. Soldier will go for the plant, but they will be able to collapse on him. He wants to save the KD. Gets off DPLUS with a 2-0 start. A bit of a slow round for Help Us LFO. Didn't really do much for the first 2 minutes, and then eventually it just ended up kind of being that horizontal push in that we saw towards the end of the round, and they did have a little bit of first floor pressure. DPLUS, another opening kill. It can then bank on that clash when it's like so late in the round, when it's like 30 seconds left. You still got clash up, you still got Nitrocell. There's no panic. They have to still push into site, go for the plant. You're just in cruise control. So a pretty comfortable round, I think, for DPLUS Kia. Yeah, there's that opening pick right at the minute mark, and that's the worst time possible for Help Us LFO. They did a decent job to get back to even numbers, but then you're spending quite a bit of time taking these gunfights and not really progressing in terms of the objective and getting kit down, clearing out the right positions. You're essentially just playing TDM. And so when it all kind of then settles down into this 2v2, guess what? There's 10 seconds left. And it's like, oh, but we're attacking. We're going to get the plant down. So you're just kind of behind, and that's why that opening pick is so important for the defensive team, of which DPLUS has been able to do now in the opening 2 rounds.
Yeah, one number I'm looking across at now that I actually didn't note prior was the average time at entry. And so the lower that number is, the deeper into the round that is. And yeah, Help Us LFO currently are the slowest team. Their average time at entry is 1:27. For comparison, Can You Be My Enemy are the fastest at 1:41. So that's already about on average about a 10 to 15 second gap of time that is lessened for the rest of the round. And that's been pretty notable in the opening couple of rounds, just how slow that they have been. It's not inherently a negative, but it is then reliant on you having the key pieces of utility up for late hits and layering utility and playing off one another as a team. And they haven't traded that efficiently. We're often seeing them going into the late round either a player down or lacking some key utility, and the positioning's not great. So the trade-off hasn't been there at the moment for them. See if they have better luck on the tertiary of dorms. Lineup suggesting that they want to clear up above. It is unlikely to be direct with no sense in play. And they'll likely spearhead with the double shield here and try and flush out these defenders on the vert.
The other thing to note as well, in the DPLUS CAG game, it was only the 2 rounds that we got to see DPLUS on defense, but the mirror was banned away by CAG. It's been left up this time around, and they've started to really utilize that, throw in the clash, and you can already start to see with the hang on, Falls got very aggressive, and Ryder is quick to react. This is going to help them on this top floor clear. Finally get their first opening kill. The double shields certainly have been helping them be able to push in, take space, but they lose Yun Sang to the Nitrocell of Midi. Don't have any more Nitrocells left. DPLUS Musi just going nuts towards Mez. Good headshot onto Ryder. Takes the long battle against Soldier, but the shield is up on the Blackbeard. Wants to recollect that kit, which has been lost by Helpus LFO. And really, for the third round straight, it's a disadvantaged position for the attack. Guard break Musi. A wonderful headshot. Well played onto the Blackbeard. Musi has started this very hot. He's got 3 in the round. He's got 6 from the opening 3 rounds. Musi does not want his campaign to end early on his new team. He makes a big statement in the third round, and it's the clean sweep in the opening 3 for DPLUS.
Starting to feel like this is going to be a very one-sided opening map, which that makes the map feeder very concerning. Fortunately for Helpus LFO, unable to leverage the shields properly in that round. Musi did a really good job after Falls aggressed to just play a safe position in the backline, stalled out the first shield, enabled the Nitro, and then off the back of that, that was his cue to then push forward. And because that pocket of space wasn't filled immediately by the attack, he was able to get freedom like right here, that kill into Ryder. Bang. And then to play this correctly against so much pressure with the Blackbeard layered and the cross covered by the Glaz. He's done a phenomenal job there. That's a very difficult position to play and quite easy to be overwhelmed on. He's looking red hot here on Lair so far. And there's really not too much to fault DPLUS for in that first rotation. Tactical timeout called. Correction, it's a tech pause. I thought that perhaps it would be a attack from Helpus LFO, but that's not the case. A technical pause. And I suppose an opportunity for them to just stew over what has been a pretty difficult first few rounds.
Yeah, I mean, difficult in the sense that they haven't really had, I guess, too many opportunities. First round, flawless, non-factor. Second round, at least got it to a 3v3, but the time was always against them. And then in the previous round, you get the opening kill. Great. You think that's the perfect start, our first pick. Well, guess what? You don't get another kill for the rest of the round, leaving 4 alive for the defense. And Musi so far with already 2 3K rounds, 1 in the first and 1 in the third. So he's 6-1, 1-0 on the entry. Really good start from DPLUS here. They put the foot down. They've come to play today. And, kind of in the pre-match discussion, we spoke about you can have an off day. Like the loss against CAG is a multitude of factors. Number one maybe being the fact that, obviously CAG, as we spoke to PJ, did a really good job of counter-stratting and took away a lot of the strength of their opponents in DPLUS Kia. Couple that with maybe a bad day, not hitting your right shots, not able to clutch up, not making the best decisions, and just ends up being a bit of a beatdown. But it's about how you respond more than anything. You can have a bad day in a double elimination bracket. As long as it's in the upper bracket, have that bad day. Come down here, switch on, learn, recover, respond. And they've done that so far to begin. 3 rounds in, they look sharp, they look really clean. And this is what we've seen from DPLUS in this region. Against the lesser teams, they can really dominate.
Yeah, hopefully we can have this issue resolved pretty promptly. From what I understand, there has been a Moss crash. And so, I mean, Moss can be annoying at the best of times, so hopefully it's a pretty quick resolution. And if you are just joining us, as a very quick reminder, it is 3-0 currently in favor of DPLUS Kia. The map selection of their opposition, though, who have struggled on attack so far. Very slow, not gaining a lot of value on the entry. Finding it then tricky to translate the control that they do get onto meaningful pressure on the site. Even last round, really unable to get towards the objective at all, not leveraging shields as well as they would have liked. So it's been rough. 2 rounds really is the only benchmark that they do need to hit. The additional bans as we enter round 4, the Ace and the Clash.
The Clash ban is good. I mean, the Clash has been a nuisance for Helpus LFO. If played correctly, the Clash is just so strong. And if it's mispositioned or it doesn't get in the right positions, it can very much be circumnavigated. But so far, it's been played really well. Twice by Nears once by Falls. That was on basement. That had large impact. He really controlled the site. And I think it's a really solid band considering they don't have access to the Monty. The shield play that we saw in the previous round when they brought the Blitz and the Blackbeard just wasn't really that effective either. So if you don't really want to play into the shield game, or you're not that strong at it, take away the clash, and you can just go, 10 guns up in the server, which is what we're going to see in this 4th round. The bad news is you're going back to Master and R6. Very strong site defensively. And with or without the clash, DPLUS will be well set up. And this time, instead of having the clash defending towards Mask, you just bring the Dachenka. Sit back, Master, get the long angle, and the Shamika launcher does the rest.
Yeah, it's pretty textbook selection, but when you've identified that your opponent on attack is quite slow, then it's best to just play that area denial late. And it means that Habas LFO needs to introduce a different element to this attack, whether it be this vert down below from the Bark or some kind of pressure R6 side. Something to alleviate the pressure that's going to come their way towards that default plant position. Otherwise, it can't help but feel the basic attack here is likely to fall apart. And his pushes forward. That's very aggressive. Tries to catch a timing, but that doesn't quite work out.
I mean, this is the difference, though. As you mentioned, it is the Buck. They didn't bring it in the opening round. They had the Deimos, but the Buck is certainly more effective on first floor, putting the pressure with the actual Vert. The Deimos is better in the sense that if someone comes roaming, you can probably win those battles quickly with the Vendetta. You can obviously get the death marks as well for more information as to where people are positioned. But I think the Buck is just overall a stronger operator when it comes to putting pressure on that first floor. Still need to open up this wall. Yinsang will help with that. They did swap out the Ace as well for the Habana, giving themselves more opportunities in case the Salmas get dealt with. Well, you got the backup.
The first claw, the Claw did not get dealt with on that wall, and he's out of lances. So that's quite unfortunate for the attack, and I can't help but feel that this is going to make things very, very tricky. Unless it's been dealt with from down below now.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Well, you got the Bark as the backup to help with that anyway. 40 seconds remaining in the round. Naturally, this side is always going to come down to the last 20, 30 seconds of a given. And they still haven't really been able to push in because you just don't get the opportunities until Mask is opened up, and then you can go for that plant, but you still got to deal with the gas babes, the Shamika launcher, last gas babe going out, and you still got 2 Nitro cells as well. And Yunsang's outside battling in the window because Help Us LFO are more concerned about the fact that they're getting aggressed on through these window positions rather than pushing in towards the site. Big battle over towards display as Falls hits the headshot onto Ryder. Mini has gone down. There's not a lot of time left in this round. Demic still needs to get the kit. He's now on the floor, and they all fall apart as Soldier's the last one. It's 4-0 DPLUS Kia.
Wow, that was that's very impressive from the defense. Again, DPLUS Kia just adjusting enough that they needed to after the additional bans were layered. Habas LFO having some issues there with hard breach, which made it tough, and then forced to filter inside. They did split the attack, and so I don't think that the macro there towards the end and the overall plan was really all that bad. But Neutral Larian could have done with a bit of improvement. They were playing into some really strong anchor positions that were clearly very difficult to clear. They didn't win any of their straight up gunfights, which compounded some of the problems that they did face, and so. It does start to feel like this match is spiraling out of control a little bit. You will soften the blow by saying again it is top floor, so take from that what you will. But these next 2 rounds essentially now are teed up as must wins or very close to it for Habas LFO.
No, I think you can definitely coin it as must win. Hey, when we get maps like Lair, when you got a super strong defensive site, top floor, right, you can almost just kind of chalk up 2 rounds typically for the defense as almost an automatic win, but the other 4 rounds are the gettable ones.
Yeah.
Where I'm not saying again, you're not going to see a 4-2 attacking half all that often. I'm not saying that they're a given, but they're the ones where you're going to have more of an ability to pinch around. And so you get to this 4-0 position and you can say, wow, they're getting absolutely smashed. And they are. I mean, none of these rounds have really been that close. But you still got 2 opportunities where if you pinch these 2, it's actually it's a normal half. Like, it's fine. Like, there's no issue. So they've just got to lock in, but it's really difficult to then just kind of go from 4 rounds of a beatdown and just suddenly flip that and go 2 straight on the attack. It's hard to envision that happening. Basement here, and then obviously Bunks and briefing the site after that. And I don't think 1's going to be enough either. I think a 5-1 half sets up DPLUS Kia very nicely. They had a very, very strong attacking showing on this map back on the opening play day. Surprised they don't bring the Solid Snake in this round. It is available, and what we've seen a lot of teams start to do now, guys, is they go like Dockerby, Deimos, and the Solid Snake, in really just making sure they can complete this roam nice and quick, and maybe even find a kill or 2.
Oh, I was gonna say it doesn't feel like it's been too slow for them, and the clear's being clean, but there is still a lurk presence up above in ops. Yeah,
they've gone completely first floor clear.
Ryder was pretty fortunate to survive that. Midi now aiding over towards front door. So much still to clear. Like the pressure at the moment from this defense, but Levy does fall. And so it's advantage help us LFO, a sentence that hasn't really been uttered throughout this half just yet.
Yeah, look at the health on 3 of their players, right? So like already a bit of damage done from these rumors. Yun Sang now taken to half health. Like there's only one player that's healthy right now, which is Soldier. He's basement on the Blackbeard, so he's not really helping with a lot of this first floor roaming pressure that we're seeing right now from DPLUS Kia. And it's not his fault, but they've got to make a decision at this point. Do you go in for the direct hit when there's only 2 defenders on site? And do you go for a 5v2 flood, try and kill those guys quickly? Even if it means that for Midi and Nears, they can play first floor retake? Like, these are the decisions that are going to be made quickly.
Oh, you got to flank watch. You've got to flank watch.
Oh, this is horrible for Halpus LFO. They just sit. They don't make the decisions in a timely manner. What is Soldier looking at? This is an absolute brutal beatdown to the end of the round, considering they got the opening kill, then they just sat around, did nothing, and DPLUS Kia say thank you very much.
Yeah. I think they got a little bit spooked by the roam there, and so they went for the filtration stack, which, again, I don't think that's really the worst idea, but when you have to commit someone to the flank watch, they had a soft flank watch up above, but that was only really going to be effective with a little bit of luck if DPLUS overplayed their hand, like over towards that weapon maintenance position. But the actual most direct flank opportunity there, especially considering top floor as well was never cleared either, was not being hard watched. And so it was a pretty straightforward flank from Midi. Just gifted on a silver platter. Really good work. And this series is just shaping up to being so one-sided. I mean, I feel like this might end up being the most one-sided match that we've covered all kickoff, and we've had some pretty. I feel like we've had some pretty brutal breakdowns so far. At the moment, DPLUS are just absolutely demolishing them.
It's all about the decision making there at the end, though, for Halpus LFO. They just looked like they didn't know what to do. And as you said, then you have fundamental breakdowns when you don't have the flank watch. So you know there's roamers, but you're not flank watching. You know there's roamers, so there's less on site, but you're not pushing site. You're indecisiveness. Indecisiveness has cost you that round. The filtration stack is fine. And I think pushing into site and trying to take the fight forced the issue. 30 seconds left as well. It's not like there was a minute and a half left. If there was more time on the clock, you play that very differently. Oh, this is a good opportunity for Levy, and Ryder is not even watching. 3 opening kills. DPLUS are in the search for a flawless half. And there has been a lot of beatdowns, guys, you're right. But I think in a lot of those one-sided matches, we kind of, or at least I try and frame it as maybe the scoreboard, not truly reflective. You know, a lot of, maybe in a 7-1, there's 2 or 3 rounds that were clutchable, but it just all went one way. And a good example is probably DPLUS and CAG. Like, as much as DPLUS got absolutely torn to shreds last week, they probably still had some winnable rounds and some clutch moments that they just couldn't capitalize upon. But there's been nothing of the sort in this half. Halpus LFO living up to their name. They need some help.
Harper does respond though here in round 6, and there's an opportunity for Halpus LFO to at least hit the scoreboard on one occasion on the tertiary site and give themselves an opportunity to Hail Mary the map. But at the moment, It looks highly unlikely. Midpoint of the round. Decent information in towards site. They do have the Ying Sense combo to layer and go for the direct green hit if they so choose. And so they're positioned accordingly for that. Fenrir may give some insight, though, that this is the play for the defense. Demi can work some additional hard breach to expose in towards that pillar position. Of course, Vert's still in play, but with the util set here on the side of the attack, they don't have to be as concerned about this. They just got to find that window of opportunity, that pocket of space to actually exploit. Oh, Youngsang in a good position for the catch.
Yeah, it doesn't need to push forward. I like the fact that he did push back, lost the battle to Falls. He got tagged up, wanted to try and draw Falls out to a bit more of an aggressive position so that Soldier could help. But up green stairs, he just lost his life as well. Demic at the exact same moment too. Goes down, double for Falls. Harper now by himself. And the flawless half now is looking all but a surety. 30 seconds for Harper in the 1v3 and doesn't have the kit. Tagged up by the Razor Bloom shell, only a little bit. But as he makes his way through the hallway, you would imagine it's only death that awaits him. DPLUS Kia with a 6-0 demolition job on Lair. The game is not done, but the half certainly is.
So cold and deceiving, filled with flies and disguises and cheating. I got just the right sugar to sweeten, turn it all to the show you what it's all about. I can make all your edges smooth. Make your visions come true. Just like a filter. Whenever you want me, I'm here for you. I make you brand new. Just like a filter. All of them flaws, baby, worse than yours. Let's bang it true. I can give you a rhyme and a reason. You just have to give in to the feeling. Don't you know that believing you see it? Let me paint you a world you can dream it. I can make it colorful, I can make the sharpness blur. I can make it possible, I can make the surface pure. I can let you into paradise. I can make it all just seem alright. Just like a filter. Whenever you want me, I'm here for you. I make you brand new. Just all of them flaws, baby, worse than yours. Let's bang it true. Just like let me take you for a ride. I can fix it up, I can change your.
Well, typically we have a halftime break. I think we may as well have just skipped to the full-blown map break. We're 6-0 up here for DPLUS Kia. Help us LFO. Just look, I think we always try and find positives or angles and spins and things like that. They got taught a lesson in that half. Nothing worked for them. There wasn't a lot that went right. I think they made a lot of fundamental mistakes themselves. But if you're going to make fundamental mistakes, you certainly cannot be doing that against a top level team like DPLUS Kia. They will absolutely punish you. And we saw that in that fifth round, the basement, the stack filtration. You know, in that moment, you put better decision making in place. You maybe could walk away with a round win, and you can maybe make that argument for a couple of rounds. By and large, though, DPLUS Kia were just far, far better in the half. Didn't make any mistakes themselves. Just clinical in all facets of the game. They got the majority of the opening kills. They got multiple multi-kill rounds. So in the half, 6 rounds played, 4 rounds, they had a player that got a 3K or more. So they always had at least someone that could pop off. Musi with 9 in 6 rounds. Like, this is pretty one-sided. And so for Help Us LFO, picking this map, they're going to be kicking themselves, I think, for going here.
Yep. Yeah, it definitely does then get marked as a very intriguing map veto selection for them, and one that has ultimately proved very, very, very costly. Again, for DPLUS, this map is not particularly bad for them. You look back all the way back to October 2025 to now. Again, they've got a 5-1 record. They've got a very respectable record on this map, and maybe Halpas LFO were lured in a little bit by the CAG result, and maybe saw something there that they could try and continue with and exploit. But we haven't even gotten to that point where there's counterplay on offer, because there's been a lot of just fundamental breakdowns from them on attack. And so yeah, they'll be kicking themselves a little bit with how that has played out. Yeah, they go top floor to defend for round number 7. It's very, very just stock standard comp lineup in terms of the double plant denial. They've got the additions of the mirror with that double nitro alongside the warden. I think DPLUS are probably going to go for a pretty consolidated ops across, maybe then split the push bathroom side as well. And that's kind of the structure that you can see deployed at the moment. Demos as well can lurk lobby. That's just very, very basic stuff here from both teams as DPLUS try and get the job done.
Demic does get the first pick. There is a chance that they can avoid the 7-0, courtesy of the defensive nature of this top floor. Helps as well when you get rid of the ace early on. Just the one tin can opener now from the Capitao of Falls, who's 8-1. It's a shame though for Halpas LFO, because on the defensive layer, they probably could have strung together a decent amount of rounds, built up confidence. And I think starting on the attack did not help them at all. This would have been a very different game had they, I think, begun on defense. Certainly judging by the start here, they're bringing the right lineup composition. They get the early pick. They can be a little bit more settled. Flash has pushed Harper back temporarily to the R6 room. 60 seconds left. DPLUS Kia have started to get Mez control. They find a pick onto Yunsei and Nears as well. Headshot onto Demic. Musi does his job on the Deimos. And suddenly now DPLUS Kia, they got the numbers and they can start to push in. Ryder got the trade, but still the numbers remain with DPLUS Kia.
Yeah, getting overwhelmed at the moment. Musi takes a ton of damage but survives, falls for plant. Ryder for a sharp swing, and now Ryder all alone 1v2.
I like the drop down there from Musi, just making sure he's safe on the rotate back up main stairs. The swing against Falls, knowing he's still close by. And that's all done. 7-0. Just like that from DPLUS Kia. They make quick work. For half a second, I didn't even realize that technically the match is over. But it certainly is. DPLUS Kia in a speed run performance. Brutal beatdown. Halpas LFO are going to need all the help they can get on Chalet.
自分が PS4 の頃に初めてレインボーシックスシージと出会って、それがきっかけですね。自分がシージを始めたきっかけはお兄ちゃんがすごいゲームが大好きで、それが影響されてゲームが大好きになりましたね。お兄ちゃんと一緒にやってたゲームは COD の BO2 というゲームがきっかけで、そこから FPS にハマって本当に一日中一緒にやったりとか、それがきっかけですね。そうですね、すごいなんか今と違って純粋にゲームを楽しんでるっていうのがあって、すごい楽しかったなって思い出ありますね。そうですね、シージと出会った頃は自分がまだめちゃめちゃ若い頃ですね。そうですね、自分が e スポーツ選手になったきっかけは、自分は昔から人と競い合うのがすごい好きで、それで言うと中学高校も部活でずっと一本でやってて、それで結構諦めちゃったっていうのが大きくて、諦めた先にあったのがゲームで、それでずっとゲームをしていたら、やっぱ楽しいなっていうよりかはやっぱ勝ちたいっていう気持ちがすごい強くなって、でそれでだんだんやってったら、気づいたらプロになってたっていうか、 気づいたら選手になってましたね。そうですね、やっていた部活っていうのは卓球で、中学から始めて、でそのまま結果を少し残せて推薦みたいな感じで高校に行った感じです。そうですね、反射神経だけは多分そこであって、それが多分すごい活かせてるんだなと思います。昔から始めた人っていうか、小さい頃から始めた人がすごい得意な有利なスポーツで、その状況で自分は中学スタートっていう状態で、団体戦っていうのがあったんですけど、それで県3位になって関東大会に出れたのが一番思い出かなと思います。始めたきっかけはそうですね、自分の行った中学がたまたますごい卓球が強いチーム、学校で、しかもみんな中学校から始めて、その幼い頃から始めた人に勝つっていう目標を持ってるチームですごい面白そうだなっていうので始めてみましたね。
He gets it just in time! It is Apex Norman!
They are the best that this region has got to offer.
Well, a brutal showing from DPLUS Kia has seen them run away with a 7-0 result on the opening map of Lair. Their third time on the map, guys, 2-1 over the 3 series played on that map. Disappointing from Helpers LFO. You can't help but say, of course, DPLUS played incredibly well, made a lot of really good decisions, made pretty much no mistakes, sharp in the gunplay. Musi was sensational. Falls had a big game as well. Ultimately, it's a case of a team that was switched on versus a team that, well, didn't really come to the table.
Yeah, had them covered in so many facets of the game. Outside of, I guess you could say, opening kills, there were 3 occasions where Helpers LFO were able to find that opening duel and then still went on to lose the round. And unlike maybe some of the other very one-sided on paper results that we've seen throughout Kickoff, whether it be here in APN or elsewhere, this one doesn't have the saving grace for the losing team of maybe having closely contested rounds or overall having the vibe that maybe they got a little unlucky. No, you look at the survival rate across the vast majority of these rounds and they were super dominant. You also look at the opening time of these engagements happening early and happening first in the round, and those were typically quite deep as well, which leans into the storyline that in the first half on attack, Helpers LFO were very slow. And slow's okay when you're able to set yourself up for the execute. Unfortunately, they did look a little lost on most of those pushes, unfortunately. And then DPLUS Kia, a team that's really switched on, able to exploit weakness, kicked into gear, closed out these rounds, and the match was honestly over before it really even got going.
Yeah, interesting. In the end, it was a 4-3 split in terms of the opening kill. So it's not like Helpers LFO didn't have opportunities when they had the 5-on-4 advantages. They just couldn't capitalize. And in one of those rounds, that was the only kill they got, was the opening kill. And another one, they only got the 2 kills in that round. So they weren't able to string together rounds where they got a good early start and then were able to compound on that, get a couple more kills, and then have the numbers up in the gunfights. It was always DPLUS Kia that even if they got the opening death, the response was swift and pretty quick. And on the flip side, when they got the opening kill, the round was basically done from there. At no point was Helpers LFO able to get back into that given round. It was a very dominant round finish. Ultimately, whenever you have a 7-0, you cannot really find a lot of positives to the team that lost. You didn't get a single round. You didn't get a single plant down. You didn't get a single clutch. You didn't get any multi-kills. So, you got beaten up pretty badly. You make the case again where DPLUS played incredibly well, and sometimes you got to tip your hat to your opponent, but you can lose games where your opponent played incredibly well, but you still got at least 2 to 3 rounds and held a bit more of your own composure. But I just don't think they had any composure in the map. This was very brutal, and it's a big wake-up call for Helpers LFO going into the next map of Chalet, which is a map they've actually played. So again, when we went back to that map, Vito, you've picked a map that your opponent has already played twice and dominated at least one team on. Then, funnily enough, the team in which picked against you, Chalet, well, you've played Chalet and they haven't. Now, Kinatrip beat Helpers LFO 7-3 back on the opening play day of Chalet. Helpers only got 1 defensive round in that first half, and that set it up. Then they go and beat BRX on it 7-5. They got 4 attacking rounds in the first half. That set them up. Again, defense was a little bit shaky, gave up a 3-3 half, but still won the map. But BRX, as we saw with the new look lineup, weren't really too strong. And so now against DPLUS going over to Chalet, I'm very worried for Helpers LFO.
Yeah, I'm super concerned as well. Man on screen now, though, Musi, he was absolutely popping off on that first map. Finished 11-12, 86% cost. He was just all across the board, just amazing. Had a phenomenal start, round 1, opening kill, backed that up with a what was at least a triple, and here's his little replay package of that particular map. It just felt like wherever you put him, he was able to have impact. Round 3, a really good example, again under pressure from the Shield guys lineup from Helpers LFO. And I was able to just pick them apart. And so, did a phenomenal job. Feels like the vibes for the DPLUS are much more positive, which, I mean, goes without saying. They just 7-0'd their opponents, so they're going to be pretty pleased with themselves. But, if they can carry even a semblance of this form onto map number 2. We haven't had a 14-0 yet, at least not that we've casted, but maybe this will be the one.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think that when you bring someone into a lineup such as Musi, they've got to have impact, and he's certainly had impact. And I'll use the CAG game as a reference point where they got absolutely torn to shreds. 7-1 loss on Lair, which is quite their lair games have been wild. They had a 7-2 win, then a 7-1 loss, and now a 7-0 win. Like, none of the lairs that DPLUS have been involved in have been close. Then they had the 7-2 loss on Border. Musi actually performed really well in that series. He was the only one that didn't go negative. He went 14-14. He went 1-0 on entry, and he had a 71% cost. He actually went positive EPS-wise in that series loss, when they only got 3 round wins. Like, that's actually quite staggering that you can have a performance such as that when your team has just been obliterated. And then we see now on the opposite side of that with a 7-0 win, he doesn't just kind of then fall back. No, he's leading from the front. So he gets even more that goes his way. He's been a really big pickup, really big addition for DPLUS Kia. No surprise there. And he's a big reason why I think this team can still go all the way and make the major. They're a really solid team. They've just got to get it all to click in to gear. And I'm sure they would have learned a lot from that CAG loss, and they'd love to get a rematch in the grand final.
Yeah, absolutely. We did have word a few minutes ago that there has been a rehost, and as you can quite clearly see in the background, a couple of the DPLUS players are restarting their clients at the moment. And we are currently waiting on them to join the lobby, which is ready to go. So should only be a couple of moments away from map number 2. Chalet, of course, in this best of 3, if required, although that feels a long way away at the moment. Bank will be the decider in this best of 3. The numbers on Chalet look a little bit more favorable for DPLUS than probably us LFO would like, but that's probably subsequent due to the kind of depth that DPLUS does have to offer in this kind of series, and so it was always going to be very tricky to sort of navigate this particular veto. There's not a ton of data for DPLUS Kia, especially given the sheer amount we do have for them, at least here on Chalet. So I don't know what help us LFO have seen here to allow it through, but let's find out.
Well, DPLUS are going to start on the defense once again, and they'll be very difficult to break down for Help Us LFO. They've got to find a win here on Chalet, or their time in kickoff comes to an end at the hands of DPLUS Kia. Must-win territory for them now, here and then on Bank to follow if required, if they can get back into this. 7-0s aren't great mentally, and I think that's the biggest thing now moving forward for Help Us LFO is cast your minds away from what happened on that opening map. Back yourselves in and don't shy away from aggression and trying to make things happen and being scared of making mistakes coming into Chalet. You've got to go into that do or die mode and hope that that does enough to get you this result. And the good news about when you lose 7-0 is it's irrelevant going into the second map. It's the same as if you lost 8-7. There's no difference. Map is done. Move onto the second one. The bands Monty and Grim band away from Help Us LFO, and they'll take off the board the Azami and the Mirror.
Alrighty. So top 4 for the first site of choice. The Rayora is an intriguing addition. I do anticipate we see some interesting Rayora stats brought into play, especially in her buffed state. The range of her launcher is now actually pretty significant. You can do some pretty crazy lineups these days now. So unfortunately, we're not going to see it actually locked in for round number 1, but certainly something to note going forward. The sense, though, is introduced into the lineup, so suggesting that we'll see some kind of play centered around that later in the round. As for the defense, very Denari heavy here, so a lot of trap util has been deployed on the solar side push. An intriguing addition. You bring the Iruni as well with, of course, the strength of the DMR and then the ability to introduce more trap util as well, even the cast as well to soak up some of the explosives. So it's a little experimental from both teams at the moment. Early positioning from the position of the attack, though, suggesting we actually see a bit of activity on this solar side of the map and playing into this setup.
Well, the opening map of Lair started with the Flawless. Started in that first half as a Flawless half as well. Help Us LFO will be eager to get around on the board just for the confidence boost. But they can't think about getting it all back in one round. Just play the fundamentals. Treat each round as if it's 0-0. In this case, it is. Bring the Blackbeard up for a soldier. on a pretty heavy stack over towards Bathroom right now for DPLUS Kia with Musi and Nias double stacking together, which does lock down this position when you've got Levy over towards Piano as well. So that kind of balcony area for Help Us LFO isn't really going to be all that strong for them if they stay tucked in. DPLUS offer them nothing that's going to force them at Library side and Solar side, which is what DPLUS want. Where this site really gets opened up is if the attack can clear out positions like Bathroom and Piano and then start to put pressure around the site. Midi putting his own sense of pressure right now from top Library. And Yusang will fall. Nias gets the pick over towards Bathroom. A Soldier is in towards Solar. You can just see how open it is. The Blackbeard is very strong in this area. But the headshot as Soldier was trying to find the pick. And I love this strategy set up though by DPLUS Kia. Open up the footholes, force them into Solar. Once they get into Solar, it's like walking into a trap. They're just completely opened up. They got no cover themselves and very difficult to hit the shots onto the Bathroom holders.
Yeah, there's a lot of different layers to that defense, and going for the old school direct Solar there is so high risk. I really don't think that's the most optimal way to approach that. You need a little bit more pressure down below, more util clearance, more explosives. Unfortunately, the spearhead there is very low percentage, and well, ultimately, help us LFO get the result that was probably expected in that round. Maybe even more, a little more lopsided against them, of course, a flawless open up.
What they needed, though, I think, is pressure Library. Bring more bodies on the Library side, and then once you've gotten control, get a couple to rotate off and go for a pinch. Instead, they just go for a stack push, and it just falls right into the trap.
Attackers have located a bomb.
And flawless again to start the second map as we did on the first map too. So, I mean, when you lose the first map 7-0, started with the flawless, going to the second map, and it's flawless again, and it's an 8-0 start to the series in favor of DPLUS Kia. That's where, yeah, mentally, it's like very difficult, even for the best of players and the most utmost professionals, to kind of keep your head in the right frame of mind that you can still win, because there's got to be naturally, I think it's only human, the thoughts in the back of your mind thinking, yeah, we're probably not going to win this. And as soon as that happens, you're definitely not going to win it. I like Ryder going under the snake. We haven't really seen that from Help Us LFO. Change it up a little bit. But is Bar Games the site in which you need to bring it? Maybe against Midi on the Solar, so if you can go hunt him down. But then if that's the role, and that's the goal, why not just bring the Deimos?
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. I'm really just honing on the time management here of this attack. It was a big sore point over on Lair. And something that will need to be addressed here on Chalet, a map that naturally should open itself up a little bit more once you're able to grind in that initial map control, or at least some presence on the map. But we've got that on display now. Over towards Solar, they can spearhead this, bit of range hard bridge to expose Levy. Double peek with Musi. Soldier's under pressure, but Harper has his back. Good cross, and we'll spot the second. Run out below, well played from Midi. 4-4, and probably a net win for the defense, however, given that the active Twitch is off the board and Levy's already placed his util.
Yeah, 100%. And Ryder's not hunting Midi, so Midi's under no pressure right now. It's a full Solar side sweep across for Help Us LFO, which is going to limit the impact of the Solid Snake in this round. The Soldier's going to go place his air jabs. Unisang's going to play around with the Roteros. So it kind of leaves Demic and Ryder as the remaining two to hold some angles, see if they can push, drone out. And it's going to slow this round down massively. And you've still got to clear out these Library players. Funnily enough, the site itself is completely vacant. But such is the nature of Bar Games. If you don't clear Library, where are you going to really get this plant down? There's just too many angles that you can cover from above. And then Midi's still down below watching anyway. And he actually gets the kill onto Ryder, so he beats out the Solid Snake. Does get traded though by Demic over towards Office, and a lovely headshot from Soldier, and gives Help Us LFO a big lead. They're just winning the gunfights in this round. DPLUS Kia, instead of opting to fall back, play safe positions like bar stock, they wanted to keep taking the gunfights. Leaves Falls in a 1v3 and help us LFO. That streak finally comes to an end. They're on the board for the first time in the series. Maybe a little bit of over-aggression from DPLUS Kia gave them the pathway and they took advantage.
Well, it seems like the 14-0 dream is now dead and buried. Some semblance of confidence now for Help Us LFO, who have actually been able to win a round with primarily gunfights there. A lot of it taking place over towards the top floor. The opening trade wasn't super favorable for them, losing the Twitch for the Goyo. Didn't put them in the best position. They then had to play sort of like a two-man front line, but they were able to back themselves in those fights, a couple of which look pretty awkward, but able to get the job done. And so now they have a little bit of a base to play off. Over to Dining for round 3, the selection of DPLUS Kia. And Help Us LFO will just be looking to, I think, slowly build on that round. Try to take, again, a little bit of confidence from that. Try to continue to chip away at their tempo and their timings, which wasn't too bad in that last round. Try and set that as the expectation now going forward, that they need to be the ones initiating plays and getting in the face of this defense a little earlier.
And curious to see if Help Us can kick on from that as a result and use that as a boon of confidence. Provide them with a little bit more vigor and spark and desire to push in, take the gunfights. Look what we can do. We can hit the shots. We can hold these angles. We can beat these guys. And so if that can fill the coffers of confidence, well, they'll find a way to get themselves back into this series. We know, again, they're a talented group of players. They can hit some good shots. Mechanically, they're sound. And at the very best of what we've ever seen from these guys, it's major level qualifications. They should never be in the territory of 7-0, 7-1, destroyed by DPLUS out of kickoff. That's not their pass mark at all. If you're going to lose to DPLUS, at least make it competitive. Musi, I like him now going onto the Mozzie just to keep that pressure up and doubling down alongside the Solidus, where they maybe get the sense that, okay, Help Us LFO are going to start to try and be more aggressive. Let's match that. Nitrocell almost gets rid of Soldier. But even though it doesn't kill him, it still now hinders his ability to push into Solar and be aggressive.
Oh yeah, Foles is over towards Dining with impacts. I think the call will go out that Soldier may be low after that Nitro. And Foles will be ready and waiting to catch Soldier, who's now in a very compromised position. Top floor still heavily contested. Help Us LFO have invested quite a big chunk of utility and haven't gained a lot from it. DPLUS Kia is still given the freedom to be pretty active here on the second floor. Nears gets caught though. Good catch from Demic. Minute on the clock. Now time starts to slowly become a concern.
Yeah, Musi knows though he's now getting pinch pressure. Hasn't had to deal with it. So he wanted to swing Ryder and take the 1v1. Lost that. Good job from Ryder, but he got taken low. And a lot of other fights haven't gone their way either. Leaves us in this awkward predicament. There's still 40 seconds, so they can try and salvage this if you Help Us LFO, but they're very low on health. Yeah, Falls had the extra health advantage, took a bit of damage, got the immediate kill onto Ryder. He was low.
Impact.
Getting pressured though by Soldier. He's still very low, and he knows he needs to try and keep the shield up at all times, especially with Midi and Falls pushing together, and DPLUS respond. At least, though, what we're getting on Chalet is more competitiveness.
Certainly it feels a little more competitive. I think Help Us LFO and their structure here on a map like Chalet that's a little more compact and a little easier to establish crosses is making their life a bit more comfortable. They can play some more static positions and don't feel as much pressure, whereas on Lair they had to be a little bit more mobile, and that's where they were getting caught out. To be fair, through the mid portion of that round, DPLUS Kia started to look pretty unsettled and were playing very ultra aggressive into those positions as opposed to maybe sitting back and draining more utility. So perhaps an element of impatience there from the defense. Although it wasn't, terribly played, they're ultimately able to capture a good advantage there towards the end, won some key fights. They're doing a lot of utility as well from the attack, and with that, their health as well. Right here, And some Muzi over-aggressing a little bit, but then, yeah, some big picks went their way elsewhere. And Soldier, who was so low for the entirety of that round, there wasn't a whole lot that he could do in terms of playmaking. So, yeah, good work there from DPLUS Kia. Certainly more competitive than Lair. But a long way to go for Help Us LFO to have a half that's actually competitive.
10 seconds
Yeah,
remaining.
one thing that they've been able to do though is just not allow Muzi to kind of do what he wants. Back on Lair, he was just kind of running around and having a bit of a free time, got a lot of kills, and now he's 0-2. He's having to work a bit more for it, and you saw that in the previous round with the pinch pressure from Bathroom and then Piano Window. So they're making DPLUS work for it a little bit more, which is the good news and good signs for help us LFO. They're in the game. You know, it's 2-1. Obviously, the wider picture of it is that they lost the first map so convincingly, but that's irrelevant now. And they should feel like they're a good chance here on Chalet off of what we've seen in the opening 3 rounds. But just because you're in the game and you're competitive doesn't mean it's suddenly going to mean you're going to just get wins for free. DPLUS will step their own game up. And so that's going to be the bigger issue. And I like already the aggression, yeah, this kind of library extension with the Mez hole, just making sure that Help Us LFO know they're not going to get free entry. And they're really relying on this Blackbeard, and they'll use it for the remainder of this half. I don't know why they banned away the Solid Snake. I would have just taken the Blackbeard off the board, forced them maybe into Blitz, which is then a bit more hyper-aggression compared to the safer Blackbeard. And so, credit to Help Us LFO, they're making full advantage of that.
Ooh. Okay, they're laying pretty decent pressure at the moment. Soldier playing the front line of the Blackbeard, but Midi elsewhere drops Demic trying to support this shield. DPLUS Kia, they're not particularly eager to peel. I like this aggression. They're not backing down. They're forcing these clears, but with that comes the risk of the clear, and Near's the victim of that. Midi still has not peeled back. Okay, finally forced out. I mean, some good siege on offer for both teams in this round. Certainly the most competitive round we've had so far, and a good catch down below onto Midi from Yunsang. This is better from Help Us.
Again, really much better. And there wasn't really much for Nears to do. That's just a wonderful shot from Levy. Nears was like, well, he got frag grenaded, but then he's going to be forced out into the open and probably dead. So just one of those kind of predicaments. And then Yunsang catches the timing on Midi pushing down library stairs. It's because they're just more active and involved so far on Chalet, which is why we're seeing these rounds look far more competitive. 3v3, under a minute left. Winnable for both teams. And these are going to be the moments now where your life in kickoff is determined. You drop these sort of rounds, Help Us LFO, then you're 3-1 down, and then, again, the doubt starts to creep back in. They've got to find a way to convert here.
Diffuser in the hands of Soldier. Harper in support. Essentially a 1v3 if this plant attempt is to go down. And you can see he's in an awkward spot, trying to progress, trying to find a pick. Util dump deep will allow the plant to go down, but Soldier and Harper both so low on HP.
They're just going to allow them to get the plant, knowing that Harper's going to be covering. Falls then pushes up with extra numbers. Soldier got a kill. They cannot give him the 1v1s here, especially in the Blackbeard, trying to find a way to corral him in the corner. And as he went to pop up, the numbers prevail for DPLUS because Soldier hit his shots. It will be 3-1. Again, more competitiveness and better from Help Us LFO, but it's not netting them the round wins in the last 2 rounds. But this is where you can look at the scoreboard and say, well, it's 3-1 to DPLUS, but probably could have been 3-1 to Help Us LFO, and you couldn't say that on the opening map.
No, yeah, decently competitive round. I think, again, probably in that transition period towards plant, they may have played it a little differently where they routed the diffuser. It carried a pretty high risk taking that early engagement as opposed to forcing plant and then maybe playing for retake straight off the bat. I liked what we saw, though, on the library clear, though. Again, DPLUS Kia are... I don't want to frame it as... It's not disrespectful, but they are playing maybe a little more aggressive against this attack than they would against a stronger opponent, in the sense that they're not peeling with a lot of conviction. They're willing to kind of hold their ground until the very last minute when they are, 99% confident they absolutely must move. But up to that point, they're like, okay, I'm playing here and I'm not giving up this position at all costs. And that has obviously worked well for them generally over the course of the series, but it carries a bit of risk, and Help Us LFO were able to eventually break that down. But in the late round, unfortunately letting them down back in round number 4.
5 seconds left.
And so into the 5th, it feels like once more, only 2 more opportunities now for Hapas LFO to find that second round and to remain competitive here in Chalet in the series as a whole.
Yeah, my concern is, though, you go back to that Kinotrope game and help us LFO only got the 1 defensive round themselves. So they were very susceptible on the defense. Now, again, it's a different series, a different day. It might be different today, but it's still a reference point to make note of. And even against Fear X, they gave up 3 attacking rounds. So where we already now sit with this 3-1 scoreline suggests to me that DPLUS will be very difficult to beat in the second half, and they'll get attacking rounds. A big opening kill from Harper. But again, they've had a lot of opening kills in the series as a whole. They had the 3 back on Lair. This will be now their 3rd on Chalet. They just don't have the ways to convert. Lovely double kill, though, again for DPLUS. It just keeps happening. It's just time and time again. They get the opening pick, help us LFO, and they don't have any ways then to compound on that advantage.
Yeah, and the rest of the attack struggling to follow up from that early pressure. And in the meantime, Levy, who did a really phenomenal job staying alive earlier and backing in towards Closet, opening up that opportunity for Muzi, while both of those players now have been able to escape, essentially unharmed. There'll now be an opportunity for the defense to anchor on the side. They have Nitro to play off, potentially some Goya util, midi can feed info. Not immediately, of course. I'll hold 2 above for now and look to exploit this man advantage that they afforded themselves with that really nice extension over towards Solar. And for Hapas LFO now, minute on the clock. Again, their problem solving is going to be under the microscope.
Oh, that's a good hold from Demic to just be patient. And Levy provides the opportunity. But then every time something goes right for Help Us LFO, they just lose someone else. And I like the patience here for Help Us. There was time on the clock. There still is. They had a chance to just play it slow, see if someone presents. They got that with Levy. But then losing Yun Sang means that they don't go into this 3v3. Had they been able to do so, you can flood this site. You can split off Midi, who's not in sight. Double bar stock hold. You got Capitao, you got Smokes. They had the flash, but in a 2v3, it's a lot more difficult to do that. Now they've completely run out of time. They get surrounded. They had to worry about the Solus coming in from dining. They knew that if they pushed in, they're going to get pinched. They can't really get and clear out bar stock for free. They didn't have a lot of options. And it's 4-1 in favor of DPLUS Kia, 3 rounds away from knocking out Help Us LFO.
Yeah, so close yet so far in a couple of rounds here on Chalet. Tactical timeout has been called, presumably by Help Us LFO. That'd be the most logical prediction. Yeah. They just continue to find themselves in okay positions. I wouldn't say they've, at least in that last round, were particularly strong. The map clear was a little inefficient, and then they were playing from a player down, but they showed some good patience. It's a pretty good resolve through the mid-round, and then, unfortunately, as they then transition in towards execute, where they had the smokes to play off, they had some flashes, they had several options available to them. They could have tried to split backstories you were kind of alluding to, but being a player down meant that they didn't kind of have that extra body to throw. And with the kind of composure and structure that DPLUS Kia have been playing with today, it's been very difficult to unsettle them. And so, yeah, playing at a disadvantage makes it really tough late round when those strong positions are being held to force a mistake and force their hands. So, look, full credit to DPLUS Kia. They're doing what they need to. And as we enclose towards the role swap, they're in such a good position once again.
Final round of the half. as I've already kind of pointed out, I mean, there's even getting this second attacking round, it still doesn't bode well. Unless suddenly today Helpless become a defensive juggernaut on Chalet, which I just struggled to see that happening. Chalet is a good map for attacking teams. You get plenty of opportunities on pretty much all the sites. So, like, again, defense will usually statistically be more likely, but the opportunity is there, and I think DPLUS Kia are the kind of team that will be able to take the most of those opportunities. Go back to kitchen and dining for the final time this half. No basement. Basement is a site that you're probably seeing a little bit less and less of. It's, I would consider it like a flex site. Some teams like it and set up well on it. Other teams prefer to avoid it.
Yeah, it's only been played 6 times globally in the last couple of weeks, compared to the high 50s to 60s for most of the other sites. So,
and compared to where it probably used to sit, I think in the meta for Chalet.
It's also been won 5 out of the 6 times by attack, so it's pretty poor to defend at the moment. Just the one target available for Yunsang.
Yeah, Ryder's going to lurk up library stairs, and they're going to try and see if they can pinch someone, but there's no one really there. And credit to DPLUS in the way that they've kind of set up in this round. They're not going to provide a lot of opportunities, and Endemic is just dead immediately.
Take notes. That's how you make a hole.
Again, they're just so proactive and so aggressive on the front line here. DPLUS Kia not shying away from these fights, and they're not wanting to fall for the ground all too easily. We'll see if that does change a little bit here, given the early advantage. And they can play a safe backline position over towards Solar. As you can see, currently it is a 3-2 split from the defense. And they do need to be cautious of the Blackbeard, especially in this round. Olivia in office, half-wall position, and his exit is covered. Well played. 45 seconds though on the clock, and so immediately the discussion quickly pivots towards the clock once again. And can Helpless LFO from a position that looks decent actually convert a round?
25 seconds left, 4v3. Been in this position before. Helpless LFO haven't had the capabilities of winning rounds such as this. Legs shot out of Soldier. Nears will fall back. And they can very much now just play the site itself, because Helpless LFO, if you keep one above, you're going to have the 2 inside. You're just completely outnumbered. Soldier goes down. That's Kid on the floor. Well, the half is coming to an end. At least it's not 6-0. But 5-1 isn't a whole lot better for Helpless LFOs. DPLUS Kia 2 rounds away from knocking them out.
Wonder how much shit I wrote down, you never broke down. My back used to be up against walls, it's on the ropes now. Fighting for that feeling we had in your Laredo. Back when you saw the thorns on my crown, more like a halo. My conscience punished me for the past while I was out there trying to ball. Bet you seen through the mask, hope I ain't being brash. If I say you could've split it with me, girl, you would see riches with me if you stuck around through the rags. My motivation these days is different. I mostly beat on myself, I don't wanna spoil a couple things I prayed for and was gifted. Just peep the drive, see how I stayed in my lane when they shifted. I knew that time could not erase what my destiny's written. Right there next to these writtens. In my skin and my DNA like the one that was risen. I'm out that grave and I'm where life is the only decision. I'm not alone in my plight. I want you alone for the flight. About to take off in a minute. I dreamed it up. Changed out my lifestyle. New money, nice house. I claimed it up. And that seems enough. But one thing really on me, I'm thinking of. In my sleep, I see new scenes of a just you, me, 2 rings, no strings to cut. But I don't know what you want. You thinking of it make me wrong. Then has it been too long? Yeah, still I got my eyes on the prize, then else in sight, just tunnel vision. If I got commas missing, I don't know who might come up missing. I don't know who gon' beat her through it. Thought you were at one time, that got proven not to be so true. I got left halfway out my mind, had to gather some things. Rearranging what really matter, kill casual flings. Set the goal and saw nothing after, had to take a risk. Bet on me, cause that's what it will. Before you fantasize of them, you should dream of a better self, and that's for real. I dreamed it up, changed out my lifestyle. New money, nice house, I cleaned it up. And that seems enough. But one thing really on me, I'm thinking of. In my sleep, I see new scenes of a just you, me, 2 rings, no strings to cut. But I don't know
I'm not too sure there's much longer to go in this one. DPLUS Kia 5-1 up on the second map and making pretty quick work of their opponents. Helpus LFO have looked more competitive. I think you can confidently say that, guys. Again, they split the opening kills 3-3 in the half. They got the plant down once. They had a multi-kill round. But for all it's worth, it's still 4 rounds straight to D+, 5-1 in the half. Certainly a couple of those rounds, I think Helpus LFO had far more of an opportunity to get some wins on the board. And if everything had have gone absolutely right for them, maybe a 3-3 half could have been on the cards and we would have been talking about the second half very differently. But yeah, fair to say this one is looking pretty much done.
Yeah, I can't help but shake the same feeling. It feels like this is a formality from this point onwards. DPLUS Kia will be looking onwards to that next match of the day for the winner of these two in the form of Scars. And I think if DPLUS Kia can play this level of aggression and confidence against Scars, it's not necessarily going to translate to as dominant of a result, but I certainly think it's going to be a tough game for Scars, actually. And then, yeah, excited for that one later in the day. Of course, we are, speaking on the assumption that DPLUS Kia do go on to win this match, but I think it would be a pretty bold prediction to think otherwise, based on what we have seen so far, where Helpus LFO have just not quite been able to click inside of the server so far today. They now have defense. We'll see if they can do something special here and bring this one back. It's Office as the first site of choice, and the bans for the second half: Mirror, Denari, Grim, and Dean.
Everyone good? Alright, let's get cracking. Loading new magazine.
Yeah, looking at the two maps in combined 18 and 2 of falls. 2 deaths.
Wow.
Musie's obviously not been as impactful on Chalet as he was on Lair, where he had 11 and 2 on the map of Lair, but Falls has been sensational across both of the maps. There's not a lot of positivity when you kind of look at the numbers for the Helpus LFO players. Their best has been Soldier, 8-11, 0-0 entry, but still only a 38% cost. So they go defense. Can they string a couple of rounds together to start the second half and see if they can fight to the end? Everything, though, statistically, across previous maps and what we've seen in this series, does suggest that they're very unlikely to come back and win this map. Good clear from Yunsang. Music continues to struggle here on Chalet. 2-5 now for what was the standout back on Lair and the standout in their loss against CAG. This has been his worst map for a while, maybe even his worst map since joining this team. Luckily, he's got very competent teammates, though, to carry the load. Nears is in towards Library on the Monty.
Yeah, and Helpus now will begin their peel back. It's not as contesting maybe as heavily as we've seen from DPLUS Kia, who have typically been really forced out of position, whereas this time Helpus LFO, again with the main advantage, that's understandably so, will peel back a little more cautiously. In the meantime, Levy's been able to pivot below 3 targets available for him on the Deimos. It's like a bit of a wild card in this round. So he's down below on the Tuba route with Nitro in pocket. Maybe in anticipation for a late solar pivot or catch something over towards Trophy. But in the meantime, Nears does tease plant. Forced off though, last gas babe from Soldier used, and Nears has been able to find a pocket of space to maybe get the kit down. No contest. Oh, actually denied by the Ella. Denied by the Ella.
Big from Harper, but still your Nitrosol's not anywhere close to this, so it's still going to go off anyway. At least they got the kill onto Falls, and Levy goes down to Yunsang because he came up from basement. I think he's completely caught Levy off guard. And so it's a 2v5 post-plant retake, but everyone's low on health for Helpus LFO, except for Demic, and Demic's the one that dies. This might be the most winnable 2v5 retake attempt that I've ever seen for the attacking team. Because you can't just throw your bodies here blindly in a rush. But they do get the kill on to Nears. Midi, does he have an angle? One up close. Harper's on for the kit, and they just got enough bodies to throw Oh, that was still close for Help Us LFO, but they do get their second round.
Yeah, a little dicey. I think they composed themselves really, really nicely. Good plant denial, I think, and good stall out. The first was exercised by the smoke. That was good. A good job from him with the gas babe, and then the follow-up Alla as well just brought in an additional bit of time and maybe unsettled the attack a little bit. And they didn't just sit there and stall out the defense. They then got proactive, found a couple of picks, and yeah, sure, the plant went down, but they had then a strong man count to be able to flood, overwhelm, and retake down below. Shout out as well to Yun Sang playing that awkward position below. He was able to hit a good flank and have impact in the round as well. And so, yeah, overall, the playmaking there from Help Us LFO was, again, some of the better we have seen throughout this series. And so there might be a bit of life in this second half as they continue their march on defense.
Yeah, and immediately Harper just goes on to the clash. They know the DPLUS are going to want to play into the Monty.
5 seconds remaining.
And to bar games for the 8th round. Interesting lineup. They've got the catch utility with the ADSs from Ryder. Yun Sang will play Pulse in basement. It does mean, though, that when you bring a lineup such as this, it's not that full anchor heavy sort of lineup. Not a lot of real trap utility. In fact, there's not really any kind of trap utility in contrast to what we saw from DPLUS Kia on the same site. They brought the Goya, they brought the Alla, they brought the Legion, brought a lot more of that trap utility. They could be a little susceptible here if they catch a good timing. They get an early pick. Yun Sang stuck in basement. Demic will need to be very cautious with how he uses a lot of this gas babe utility. He's sitting bar stock. This needs to be saved late round. Can't use it early. Ryder trying to contest, drops down immediately, gets nothing at big window. So when you kind of look at library, it's already completely vulnerable. Soldier's playing Mez. And so it's like, well, can you deal with the clash? And if you get, oh, there you go, perfect. I mean, almost got the kill opportunity onto Harper. His back was showing. Now he can sit tucked in. That's a small little win for Help Us LFO because he probably should have been dead there. And that would have just given the round over.
Yeah, we'll see if they can dump the utility required to clear the clash. Actually,
already
Harper will
dropped.
drop in the meantime, so probably not wanting to take that risk. Fair enough, I suppose.
Shields out and ready.
Can fortify a position now in towards the objective with that shield, or even rotate it elsewhere. Maybe just respecting the util clearance ability of DPLUS Kia and wanting to prioritize that for the late round.
There's one gas babe left though, guys. No nitro cells, no utility. So they're a little susceptible to big window. Especially with the repositioning.
Oh, the Thatcher onto the clash, and so Harper's position now is pretty compromised. Top library.
Still a minute too, so good amount of time. Looking to clear out Mez from a different angle of approach. Demic, though, gets the kill on the fall. Soldier can't win his battle. Wonderful pistol from Niz. He's just at a 2v3 after the exchanging gunfights. The Clash and Monty both dealt with, but the numbers are with Help Us LFO. And Yun Sang's actually in piano. He can get a good backwards flank here. I don't think DPLUS are aware of this at all. And he does indeed get the headshot onto Muzi. And that should be the round. That's going to make it 2 straight for Help Us LFO. Unless Levy pulls off the 1v3. He's got 30 seconds to do so.
Should be a pretty simple cleanup here for the defense. And there we go. Help Us LFO able to get the job done over towards Bar. Yeah, well played round. Harper especially. I think it was a little risky for him to pivot as early as he did from the library tuck position. But he was able to then re-establish control over towards top library stairs. And then despite being hard countered by the Thatcher and his shield actually having limited impact in that regard, he was still able to value it to the point where he finds that multi and ultimately, yeah, sure, traded out, but he afforded his team the advantage, made that clear really awkward for DPLUS Kia as we catch the tail end of that little double from him. And it was critical because the Monty was on a bit of a rampage that round, but yeah, he did a really, really good job. Enabled that flank potential as well if it was needed, but ultimately not the case with good anchor work on the objective.
Discovered the location of a bomb.
So it's back-to-back for Help Us LFO. Tertiary site, though, given the context of the scoreboard, is a necessity. So let's see if this is a serious comeback or if it's going to wane here on round number 9.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they've started really well in this second half, and that's all you can really ask of them. Posed the questions regarding their defensive capabilities just based on their previous matches of Chalet against Kenotrope and Fear X, and so they've already kind of improved upon those games. At least it's a good showing, it's a good sign. But they've also had the early advantages in both of these 2 rounds. So what happens if someone gets picked early, and then what happens if it becomes a 5v3? They're very susceptible. So you've got to stay locked in. You don't have margin for error because you gave up the 5 rounds in the first half. You're still 2 rounds behind DPLUS. DPLUS still going to need 1 more round to at least just book in overtime. So they're still in a pretty comfortable position where they can just go for a fast hit, try and overwhelm Helpus LFO.
That's what they're going for. Straight through West, man.
And that's what they're going to do here. Pinch as well with the blitz, straight into kitchen for Nears. He's done really well to survive for this long, and he's getting the benefit of that now because his teammates are helping and getting kills. Mini then gets rid of Harper. Nears can go for the play inside of kitchen. The fast hit early on in this 9th round seems like it'll pay off for DPLUS here. Helpus LFO weren't ready for it. They wanted to play their game. They wanted to play the delay game and hope that DPLUS would play into it, and DPLUS just gone through the front door.
Yeah. Love that approach, leveraging the blitz. 2v5 post plant position. It is looking almost impossible, and it should be flawless. Yunsang has been pretty decent here on Chalet, but this is absolutely beyond his limit. DPLUS Kia, 1 step closer to winning the series. I love the shot call here on the tertiary site. And Helpus LFO, their slow start in the first half is coming back to bite them.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good round from DPLUS Kia, and as you said, it's just a call. It's a set play. We're going to do this. We're going to execute it. And they've done it really well. That was a really solid round from DPLUS Kia because then they got kind of forced into playing and doing something like that where they had to go into the strat book and say, all right, let's try this, because the first 2 rounds just weren't working, playing the more conventional default kind of style, playing into what Helpus LFO were doing. Helpus LFO were matching them and coming out better in the first 2 rounds. So they kind of try to dictate the round themselves because they were losing based on what the defense was providing. So this time they're like, all right, we're going to do what we want to do. If it works, great. If it doesn't, well, it is what it is, but we're going to try to be the ones to change the course of the round. Solace in the line bands, Master Bedroom and Office coming up for what could be the final round of this series. 6-3 lead for DPLUS. They get 3 series points to knock out Helpus LFO. And kind of came out of nowhere too, because we haven't seen Blitz play in the series except for a single round back on Lair, which was from Helpus LFO. So it wasn't even from DPLUS Kia. They haven't played Blitz at all. So I think that catches Helpus LFO off guard. DPLUS have lent more into the Monty game, a little bit more of that slower pace. They themselves either been all that aggressive and fast paced and going for a set play like that. So when you don't do it at all, and you finally bring it out and you execute it so quickly into the round, there's no time for Helpus LFO to really figure out what's going on and how do we counter this. And then add in what was, a really good play as well from Nears on the blitz to just survive the amount of contact coming his way, the guard breaks, the shots. That solidified the round, and well-deserved lead for DPLUS Kia.
Well, can they get the job done here? Round 10. It certainly feels like an inevitability at this point. Also a case of when, not if, DPLUS Kia can book that ticket against Scars in the lower bracket semi-final for what should be a very competitive match. Maybe not if Soldier can have something to say about it. Finds the opener. Harper as well get in on the action, and Nears is low on HP on the side of DPLUS Kia. Does still find the kill on the Yunsang, and the Soldier is low on HP. Nears has the protection of his shield as well, which keeps this round a little interesting. Susceptible to the smoke, of course. And so Nears has to be patient.
Yeah, again, it's the one takeaway for Helpus on this map. They've been really good in the opening kills. DPLUS have been a bit careless with their entries on the attack, and they were a little susceptible on the defense too, giving up 3 opening kills to the opposition. If there's something to take away from this map, win or lose for DPLUS Kia, it's certainly going to be their entries. There's a lot of time remaining in this round, though, so they can slow the pace down, try and keep Nias up on the Monty, allowing him to push forward later in the round. That's a lovely swing from Musi. He stays alive as well. 1 HP. It's quite literally retreats back in towards Library. He and Nias very low on health. Headshot though from Musi is exquisite. He started 2-5. He's now 6-6. He's come alive late in the piece here on Chalet. But Nias will fall, so no more Monty. Falls, who's been the MVP of the series, though, still alive and full health. But Musi has come back to life right up by himself to keep Help Us LFO in kickoff. He's only got the 2 kills to his name so far on Chalet, but he needs to double it up. With 40 seconds left, he'll push, he'll get aggressive, catches Musi prone, up close, so falls, will not miss his shots. Help Us LFO are out of kickoff as DPLUS Kia will book their date against Scars later this evening in the quest of running the lower bracket.
Well, that's the DPLUS Kia that we've come to know and love here in the APL. A much better return to form from them, and I think, again, tying in with the storyline that their earlier performance against CAG, not a reflection of where this team is really at, and I think they've now set themselves up with a really strong platform to go on through this lower bracket, make a run, and that matchup against Scars later today, I'm sure, is going to be a really, really competitive one.
Yeah, it certainly will be. I can't wait for that. Of course, we'll have the upper bracket final before it, but for DPLUS Kia, I think they'll be very happy with the series as a whole. They were incredibly dominant on Lair, 7-0, 0 mistakes, gave Help Us LFO very little look-ins. Chalet, okay, a little bit more of a contest, but that was more towards the end of the map. They started with that 5-1 lead, exquisite defense in that first half, and again, a little shaky when it came to maybe their entries, and that was the pathway, I think, for Help Us LFO to be competitive in the rounds, was getting those early picks and then playing off the numbers advantage. But yeah, I think a 7-3 scoreline is still most the fairest result in favor of DPLUS. They were far and away the better team in the series, deserved to win it out pretty comfortably. And for Help Us LFO, well, an extended break once again, heading into stage 1. They've got some work to do.
Yeah, unfortunately, it now means that, sure, we still have a South Korean organization in the bracket, but in terms of players inside of the server, with TheorX eliminated even before Help Us LFO, that's now, unfortunately, South Korea's run done here in the bracket, which was a big storyline heading into this matchup and a reflection on where that part of the world is at right now when it comes to Rainbow Six. It's been a really rough run for them over the last few months, and it seems like that pain is going to continue for a little while longer. So hopefully they can bounce back, and stage 1 could be a little bit of a different storyline for those guys.
And for DPLUS now, looking ahead, they've got the matchup against Scars later this afternoon. Of course, they've not played so far in kickoff, but Scars themselves, again, I don't think they've been CAG level, if that makes sense, right? So I think that they've got every opportunity to go into that as maybe even the favorites, to be honest. We've got DPLUS Kia's coach Hal coming in for a quick chat after their result win against Help Us LFO. Hal, welcome on in. Congratulations on the win. Very dominant on Lair. Were you surprised that they picked that map into you guys after what you've shown on it so far, CAG results aside?
Yeah, we was first hello, and yeah, we're surprised that they picked the map. Like it's not our worst map, and even after we lost to KAG, like it's not our bad map, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, cool. I want to look ahead at the Scars matchup that you guys have later today. How much have you looked into their play style? Do you guys feel like you're well equipped to take down Scars?
Yeah, we're studying like Scars really good, and the guys here already play against them, so they know how to play. They know their play style too, so I think it will be a good game.
I did want to dive a little into that CAG match, Hull, especially from a coach's perspective. When you lose the way that you guys did, now I felt like a lot of the rounds were still competitive and the scorelines maybe weren't quite indicative as to how the series really played out. We spoke to PJH in an interview earlier today, and his view on it was kind of the counter-strategy from CAG. Is that how you viewed it?
Yeah, 100%. They do a lot of counters, but it happens, and it's not our day at this day. So that helped them. So we're gonna have our rematch soon.
Well, you very well might. I'll give you the floor here. Anything that you want to say before we let you go?
Just say thanks to the fans, the people who support us, and you can expect a better team for us every match.
Well, we'll see if we can have another chat later this afternoon. Hopefully, we can chat again. Hal, thanks for coming on.
Thank you guys.
So DPLUS Kia will have a little break, guys, a couple of hours. I would imagine Kinotrope CAG will be up next, and then Scars will now play DPLUS Kia later tonight.
Yeah, we've got our big headline match up next in terms of the two big teams from Japan. I feel like I've framed a couple of matches over the course of Kickoff as maybe being the game of the day and then being flat out wrong, so I want to be very careful giving that label, but I really am hoping that it's going to be a competitive match. It will surely be more competitive than our first game of the day.
APL is a tricky beast to try and predict. We've all been there before. All right, we're going to go to a short break. When we come back, it's the upper bracket final, Kinotrope versus CAG.